In the quiet heat of an African afternoon, a heavily pregnant woman walked alone along a dusty, endless road, her swollen feet burning against the gravel and her eyes swollen from hours of crying. Days earlier, she had been a wife with a home. Now she was an abandoned woman cast out by the very family she had served with loyalty. As she struggled to steady her breath, her mind replayed the moment her in-laws had pushed her out, accusing her of being a burden, claiming her unborn child was nothing but a mistake their son never wanted. Her husband, Sifo, had vanished months ago, leaving only silence and suspicion behind. But instead of comforting her, his family used his disappearance as fuel to blame her for everything that had gone wrong. With nowhere to go and no one willing to help, Amahle walked until her legs trembled, praying quietly for a sign that her suffering would not swallow her whole. She finally stopped under a dying acacia tree, its thin branches offering the smallest patch of shade. She lowered herself slowly, placing a protective hand over her belly as she leaned her back against the rough bark. But just as she shifted to make herself comfortable, her fingers brushed against something strange, a corner of a leather bag buried beneath loose soil. Curious and desperate for anything that might help, she dug it out with trembling hands. The bag was heavy, unusually so, and when she unzipped it, the world around her seemed to freeze. Inside was stacks upon stacks of crisp $100 bills, more money than she had ever seen or imagined in her entire life. Her breath caught, her heart raced, and she looked wildly in every direction, terrified someone might appear claiming it. For a moment she thought her exhaustion was making her hallucinate. But it was real. $5 million hidden under a dying tree, found by a woman who had nothing left but the child in her womb. Her mind spun, was this a blessing? A trap? A test? In the span of a heartbeat, Amahle's life shifted from despair to a moment so unreal, it felt like destiny itself had intervened. She clutched the bag to her chest, whispering a shaky prayer, unaware that this discovery was not just a turning point in her life, but the beginning of a dangerous, extraordinary journey that would expose secrets, challenge her strength, and change her future forever. Amahle, take your things and leave this house today. Mama Sifo's voice cut through the tiny courtyard like a knife. Amahle stood still, one hand on her swollen belly, the other clutching the faded scarf she always wore. "Mama, please," she whispered, her voice shaking. "I have nowhere to go. The baby, your grandchild." The old woman's eyes burned with anger. "That child is your problem. My son has not sent a word in months, and you think I will feed you and your bastard until you give birth?" Behind her, Sifo's younger brother, Thabo, folded his arms and shook his head. "You're just using our name," he added coldly. "If Sifo wanted you, he would be here." Tears filled Amahle's eyes as she looked around at the compound that had been her home since marriage, the cracked walls, the chicken coop, the avocado tree under which she and Sifo once laughed together. Now it felt like the ground itself was rejecting her. Mama Sifo shoved a worn-out bag into her hands. "Here, your clothes. Leave now, before the sun sets. We do not want strangers thinking we keep useless people here." Emma's heart pounded. "Mama, at least let me stay until the baby comes," she begged. "I will leave after that, I promise." The old woman turned her back. "Go!" Thabo grabbed Amahle's arm and dragged her to the gate. "You heard her." He pushed her hard, and she stumbled onto the dusty road. The gate slammed behind her with a final clang. For a moment, she just stood there, shaking, staring at the closed gate, feeling the weight of rejection pressing on her chest. Then, slowly, she turned away, wiped her tears, and began to walk one painful step at a time into an uncertain future. The sun sank low, painting the sky orange and purple as Amahle walked along the village road, each step heavier than the last. Her back ached, her legs trembled, and sweat clung to her skin beneath her dress. Every now and then, she pressed a hand to her belly. "We will be okay. My child?" she whispered, more to convince herself than the baby. Chickens scattered as she passed, goats bleated in the distance, and curious eyes peeked from doorways. Some villagers recognized her but quickly looked away, pretending not to see. Nobody wanted trouble with Mama Sifo. A motorcycle sped past, throwing dust into her face. She coughed, blinking away tears. The road seemed endless. She had no plan, no destination, only the instinct to keep moving. As the light faded, the air grew cooler. Crickets began to sing, and far away, a dog barked. Amahle's feet burned with blisters. She finally spotted a lonely acacia tree by the roadside, its branches thin but wide enough to offer some shade, even in the darkening sky. She dragged herself to it and sank slowly to the ground, leaning her back against the rough trunk. A sharp twinge shot across her lower belly. She gasped and grabbed her stomach. "Not now," she murmured. "Please, not yet." After a few breaths, the pain eased. She pulled her bag closer and hugged it like a pillow. Cars and buses rushed by on the main road, headlights cutting through the coming night, but none of them stopped. She felt very small beneath the wide, uncaring sky. "God, if you can hear me, don't leave me like they did," she whispered. Exhaustion washed over her, and with tears drying on her cheeks, she slowly drifted into a restless sleep under the lonely tree by the road. Dawn crept in with the soft calls of birds and the distant rumble of trucks. Amahle woke to a stiff neck and a numb arm. She winced as she shifted, adjusting her back against the tree. Her baby kicked gently, as if reminding her it was still there, still fighting with her. "Good morning, little one," she whispered. "Another day." As she moved her hand along the dusty ground to support herself, her fingers hit something hard. She frowned and brushed away the dirt. A corner of worn dark leather appeared. Curious, she cleared more soil and tugged at it. Slowly, a medium-sized leather bag emerged from beneath the earth. Its zipper rusted but intact. Her heart picked up. She glanced around. The road was quiet. No one was nearby. "Whose bag is this?" she murmured. Her hands trembled as she pulled the bag onto her lap. It was surprisingly heavy. A part of her wanted to leave it alone, often came wrapped in mystery. But hunger, fear, and desperation pressed louder than caution. She swallowed hard and slowly unzipped it. The moment the bag opened, her breath caught. Neatly arranged inside were bundles of crisp US dollar bills, wrapped in plastic bands. She froze, staring, her mind blank. She picked one bundle and turned it in her hand. It didn't look fake. Each note was clean, new, official. "No, this can't be real," she whispered. Her heart hammered against her chest. She looked up and down the road again, expecting someone to sprint toward her, shouting, "Thief!" But no one came. The world remained calm, as if nothing had changed. Yet everything had. "How much money is this?" she wondered aloud, touching the bundles as if they might disappear. $5 million, written on one of the paper bands, her vision blurred. 5 million. She clapped a hand over her mouth. For a long minute, all she could hear was her own heartbeat and the whisper of the wind in the grass. Her life of poverty and rejection stood on one side, the impossible weight of this money on the other. In that moment beneath that dying tree, her destiny quietly shifted. For several minutes, Amahle kept the bag open, just staring, as if her eyes could somehow decide for her. The money looked almost unreal in the morning light, bright and powerful. She thought of her in-laws, their insults, their harsh faces as they threw her out like rubbish. She thought of the nights she had gone to bed hungry after giving most of the food to them, and then she thought of her baby. "This kind of money," she whispered, "it can change everything." She imagined a small house with a strong roof, a soft bed for her child, enough food to never go to sleep hungry again. She imagined good schools, clean clothes, a life where she didn't have to beg anyone for kindness. For the first time in days, hope flickered inside her. But another voice rose in her mind. What if this money belonged to dangerous people? What if someone came back for it? What if the police accused her of stealing or even kidnapping? Her hands grew cold. She zipped the bag quickly and held it close, her eyes scanning the horizon. "Should I take it to the police?" she wondered. "But will they even believe me? Or will they just take it for themselves and leave me with nothing?" She had seen such stories before. Poor people rarely want. The baby shifted inside her, and she flinched. What kind of mother will I be if I walk away from this? She asked herself. And what kind of trouble will I bring to us if I keep it? The road remained empty, the sky wide and silent. Finally, with a shaky breath, she made a decision. She would take the bag, but she would be smart. No flashy spending, no careless moves. Just a chance, a secret chance to build a life. She stood slowly, hugged the bag to her chest like a newborn, and walked away from the tree that had become both witness and guardian of the moment her life changed. By mid-morning, Amahle had reached a nearby small town. Keeping her head down and the bag clutched tightly under her shawl, she stopped at a tiny kiosk and bought a bottle of water with the few coins she had left, too afraid to touch the money yet. The shopkeeper gave her a long look. "You look tired, sister. Are you all right?" he asked. She forced a smile. "Just a long walk," she replied, then moved on quickly. While she searched the streets for a cheap room to rent, Far away in her old village, a dusty gray car pulled up near the road where she had slept. A man in a wrinkled suit stepped out, his eyes sharp and restless. He walked straight to the acacia tree, studying the ground carefully. There were footprints, marks of someone sleeping, and a shallow patch of disturbed soil. He knelt and touched the earth. "Someone found it," he muttered to himself. The man was called Kofi. For weeks he had been tracking a money trail linked to a dangerous smuggling ring. That bag was his key evidence. Losing it was not an option. Back in town, Amahle finally found a rundown lodge where the owner, a broad-shouldered woman with kind eyes, agreed to give her a small room at a low price. "You're expecting?" the woman asked as she handed over the key. "Yes," Amahle answered softly. "And alone?" The question stung, but Amahle nodded. The woman sighed. "God will see you through, my dear." That night, as Amahle lay on the thin mattress in her room, the bag sat beside her like a silent animal. Somewhere not too far away, Kofi was questioning villagers and drivers, showing them a photo of a leather bag. "Have you seen this?" he asked over and over. Some shrugged, some leaned. One man remembered a pregnant woman sleeping under the tree. "I saw her walking toward town this morning," he said. Kofi's eyes hardened. "Then I will find her," he replied quietly. Days turned into a cautious routine. Amahle rented the tiny room by the week. Paying with small amounts of money, she exchanged discreetly at different shops so as not to draw attention. She bought simple clothes, decent food, and visited a local clinic for prenatal checkups. The nurse there, a gentle woman named Lindy, often smiled at her. "Your baby is strong," she would say, "but you need rest and less stress." Amahle always nodded, even though her heart never truly relaxed. Still, with each passing day, her fear slowly blended with a surprising sense of control. For the first time, every decision she made was her own. No in-laws telling her what to do. No husband disappearing without a word. She walked through the market and imagined herself owning a stall selling fabric, groceries, or cooked food. "I could start something," she murmured to herself one afternoon, watching traders shout prices and customers bargain. "I could build a life here." She began to keep a small notebook, writing ideas for a business and noting down how much money she spent. The bag remained mostly untouched, hidden under a loose floorboard in her room. She only opened it at night to reassure herself it was still there. Meanwhile, Kofi's search tightened like a net. He spoke to bus drivers, shop owners, and beggars. The description of a pregnant woman matched what he had been told, but her new town was busy and full of faces. One evening, as Amahle left the clinic, she felt a strange chill down her back. Like someone's eyes were on her. She turned but saw only people going about their business. Even so, she quickened her steps. "You are safe now," she whispered to her baby, but a small voice inside her asked, "For how long?" As the town lights flickered on and the sky darkened, Amahle did not know that the man searching for the money was now only a few streets away. A week later, as rain clouds gathered above the town, Amahle sat in her room counting the small bills she kept for daily use. Her mind floated back to Saifo, the man who had promised to love and protect her. Where was he now? Was he alive? Dead? Did he even care she had been thrown out? A knock on the door startled her. Her heart leaped. "Who is it?" she called. "It's Lindy from the clinic," came the familiar voice. Amahle relaxed and opened the door. Lindy walked in, her face serious. "Amahle, I need to talk to you," she said softly. "I hope I'm not disturbing." They sat on the bed, and Lindy hesitated before speaking. "There was a man at the clinic today, asking questions," she began, "about a pregnant woman who came here recently, alone, with no family." Amahle's mouth went dry. "What did you tell him?" she whispered. "Nothing personal," Lindy replied. "I told him I can't share patient information. But the way he talked, it worried me." She paused. "He mentioned a name, Saifo." The room seemed to tilt. Amahle gripped the bedsheet. My husband?" Lindy nodded slowly. "The man said he's investigating a criminal case. Your husband is involved with dangerous people. He was arrested in the city." Tears filled Amahle's eyes, but they were not just from pain, they were from confusion and betrayal. "He left me," she said hollowly. "He left me to suffer while he—" "Did what?" Lindy took her hand. "From what I heard, he was part of a money-smuggling operation. The man said large sums of money went missing recently. They believe someone close to Saifo may have stumbled on it." Amahle's heart pounded so loud she could barely hear. She thought of the bag hidden under the floorboard. So this money, It wasn't just lost. It was part of something dark, something dangerous, tied to the man she once loved. Fear and anger mixed inside her like fire and smoke. "What does he want with me?" she asked quietly. Lindy squeezed her hand. "I don't know, but Amahle, you must be careful." 2 days later, as the afternoon sun beat down on the tin roof, Amahle was returning from the market with a small bag of vegetables when she saw him for the first time. A man leaning against the wall near her lodge, hands in his pockets, eyes scanning the street like a hunter. Their eyes met for a split second. Something in his gaze made her chest tighten. She looked away and walked faster toward her room, but she could feel him following. By the time she reached her door, his voice called out, "Amahle." She froze. Slowly, she turned around. "Who are you?" she asked, trying to keep her voice steady. He showed a small badge. "My name is Kofi. I'm working with an international investigations unit," he said. "I think you know why I'm here." Her throat went dry. "No, I don't," she replied, though her mind screamed the truth. He stepped closer, but kept a respectful distance. "Your husband, Saifo, is in custody. He was arrested for moving illegal money across borders," Kofi said calmly. "Before he was caught, he made a confession. He mentioned his wife, pregnant, mistreated by his family. He said if anyone deserved protection, it was you." Amahle blinked in shock. "Protect her after abandoning her? I don't understand," she whispered. "Why are you looking for me?" Kofi's eyes hardened because a bag of $5 million went missing. It was hidden near a road under an acacia tree. A pregnant woman was seen sleeping there. "You appeared in this town soon after, with no past, no family, but money to pay rent." His words sliced through her like a blade. The air seemed too thick to breathe. "Are you accusing me of stealing?" she asked, anger rising to cover her fear. "I'm saying," he replied evenly, "that you may have found something that belongs to a very dangerous network." "I don't want to arrest you, Amahle. I want the truth, and I want to keep you and your child alive." The room, the road, the whole world seemed to balance on what she would say next. Silence stretched between them as Amahle's mind raced. She could lie, pretend she knew nothing, send him away butchy, then what? Live the rest of her life looking over her shoulder, always wondering when the real owners of the money would come for her? Or she could tell the truth and risk losing the one thing that could give her and her child a new life. Her eyes dropped to her belly. The baby kicked lightly, as if urging her to decide. "Come inside," she said quietly, opening the door to her room. Kofi stepped in, looking around briefly. It was simple, no sign of luxury, nothing to show she was swimming in wealth. She knelt beside the bed, fingers trembling, and pulled at the loose floorboard. Kofi watched silently as she lifted it and revealed the leather bag. She placed it on the bed and unzipped it, exposing the stacks of money. "I found it under that tree," she said, her voice breaking. "I didn't know what to do. I have no family, no husband, no home. They threw me out like trash." Tears rolled down her cheeks. "So I kept it. I thought, maybe God finally remembered me." Kofi exhaled slowly, the tension in his shoulders softening. "Amahle, this money is tied to men who would kill to get it back," he said gently. "If they find out you have it, they won't care that you're pregnant. They will not show you mercy." She wiped her tears angrily. "Why should I show them mercy? Why should I suffer again?" He sat on the edge of the bed. "Because this is bigger than you, bigger than me. This money can help bring down a network that has ruined many lives, not just yours." She stared at the money, then at him. "If I give it to you," she asked, voice trembling, "what happens to me and my child?" Kofi met her gaze. "I will make sure you are protected, and I will fight for you to receive something in return, a legal reward, a chance to start fresh without fear." The choice seemed impossible, but deep, Amahle knew that holding on to stolen darkness would never bring true light. With a shaking breath, she nodded. "Take it," she whispered. "Just don't let my baby grow up in fear." Weeks later, the world around Amahle looked completely different. The investigation moved forward quickly after Kofi recovered the money. Several members of the criminal network were arrested, their operations exposed. Saifo, facing the weight of his crimes, finally told the full truth in court, including how he had abandoned his wife and allowed his family to mistreat her. Amahle was called to testify, her story moving many who heard it. Her in-laws, who once kicked her out, watched the news reports in shame as the village whispered about their cruelty. Back in the town, Amahle stayed in a safe house arranged by the authorities. Lindy visited often, bringing baby clothes and food. "You did the right thing," she would say. "You chose life, not just for yourself, but for others." One morning, a government official and Kofi arrived together. They sat opposite Amahle in the small living room. The official smiled warmly. "Because of your cooperation and the crucial role you played in helping us recover the funds and dismantle this network, the court has approved a legal reward for you," he announced. "It is not 5 million, but it is enough to change your life." He handed her a document confirming a significant sum placed in her name. Amahle stared at the paper, tears filling her eyes not from greed, but from relief. This time, the money was clean, legal, and safe. Some months later, Amahle stood outside a small grocery and provisions shop with a bright new sign. Amahle's corner, her baby boy Nathi slept peacefully on her back, wrapped in a colorful cloth. Customers came and went, greeting her with respect. She had a modest house, steady income, and, for the first time, peace. One evening, as the sun dipped low, Kofi visited the shop. "You've done well," he said, smiling. "You gave up dirty wealth for a clean future." She nodded, looking at her child. "I used to think the money was my miracle," she replied softly. "But now I see the real miracle was getting a second chance to live without fear." As the camera pulls back from the busy street, we see Amahle laughing with a customer, her baby's tiny hand reaching toward the sky. From abandonment to abundance, from darkness to dawn, her story becomes a quiet reminder. Sometimes the hardest choice opens the door to the life we truly deserve.